What's up, everybody? I'm comedian Michael Halcomb. This is the Messed Up to Setups podcast where we talk all things comedy. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and give you a look into what comedians do when they're joking together. Big Rich Brock's here. He's going to bring a joke, and we're also going to do some on-the-spot comedy, so stick around.
It's all messed up, yeah, everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just our setup.
What's up, everybody? Comedian Michael Halcomb here. Back in the house with me today, comedian Big Rich Brock. Big Rich, good to see you again, brother.
You too, Michael. Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, man. So everybody, this is part 2. If you missed part 1, don't pause this. Wait till this is over and go back and watch part 1. So this is part 2. And in this one, I love these. These are all kind of my favorite because I would pull back the curtain on what comedians do. Rich is going to bring a joke here and talk to us about it. We'll see if we can punch it up, and then we'll do some on the spot stuff. So Rich, floor is yours, brother.
Man, I tell you that what I was like talking about pressure. You're in my head. I'm thinking, wonder which one I ought to bring up or which one we'll talk about. For the viewing public, go back to segment 1. You'll understand how this mind works. Why I got these gray hair on here. I love this premise, and I liked watching your podcast with other comics. And I've called a few, Jason Hedden, a couple other guys, and I'm like, wonder which one I would talk about. And immediately I thought of one that I'm more of a storyteller. If you haven't noticed, I'm from the South. Doesn't take long. And you'll see from the first one, I am a former pastor. If you hadn't figured that out, it normally doesn't take long. But the comics that I get compared to, which I always think's that's a pretty cool podcast question, but I get compared to Jerry Clowers, and James Gregory. Those are the two that people, and my point in that is both those guys have now passed. So if you're still around and you like those two, hang in, baby. I'm here. I'm coming. And
you're next. You're next.
Yeah. Well, not the dying part, hopefully. I'd like to make it, a little while longer. But and I get that, like when I first met somebody that I admire greatly and has helped me is Dusty Slay. For Dusty Slay fans, real deal as a human and as a comedian. But, and to get to this bit, like when I started, I did some shows on my own. I got a guy that believed in me that had a production company. He came to a show. I went to high school with the character, and we weren't like big buddies then, but he's like, he told his wife, and I lived an hour from where I grew up. He's like, man, I know that guy. He's doing comedy. Let's go. And he showed up at this wine bar with 47 other people. First show I ever did, Michael. $10. My biggest decision starting out was whether I charged $5 or $10. Because I knew I was charging something, because in my mind, I thought, well, if it's free, they're going to think, why is it free?
Right.
It must suck if it's free. So I thought, and I went for 10, my ex-wife, I should have known she had said more money. So I went for 10 and 47 people came out, and this guy was here. And afterwards he said, how long you been doing this? And I said, 2 weeks. He said, well, when you're ready, I want to film you. To just let you know, and I'll pay for it, and I'll come out wherever you are. And I called him. I said, are you serious? And he said, yeah. I said, I gave myself a goal. I said, give me 90 days. So for 90 days, I put together all this stuff and material, and I had an hour's worth of stuff that I wanted to do. And he filmed it, and then I sent like 19 minutes of it to America's Got Talent, Dry Bar, Jeff Foxworthy, Dusty Slay, and Larry the Cable Guy. That was the people I thought might. And all I said was, I'm a former pastor. I'm new to this. Could I get your advice? Any advice you might have for me? The next day, I heard from Dusty Slay, and it said, Rich or Big Rich, when I saw this video was 19 minutes long, there's no way I was going to watch it. He said, but I did. And I'm glad I did. And you got something, and you got that Jerry Clower, James Gregory thing going. And like I said, if you don't know who those guys are, Southern storytellers. Michael, the first comedy show I ever went to was in my hometown of Chickamauga, Georgia, at the high school auditorium. I was 4 years old, and I sat in the lap of my dad listening to Jerry Clowers.
Huh.
My father had those 8-track tapes,
Yeah.
played them in the truck, the albums. Then I go off to college, and I'm sitting in the student center, and this guy's doing a comedy show at lunch by the name of James Gregory. He was a car salesman, I think, that turned comedian. And that was the second comedy show I'd ever went to. Now, I listened to Eddie Murphy Delirious on my boombox, walking around my neighborhood, or Steve Martin. But those two guys I get compared to a lot. And I think God brought them into my life at those times, and it helped me see, okay, you can do this. So I'm a storyteller more than a joke teller. And the one I'll bring up started from a real life experience. And I think, I don't know, for me, I like things that are based on real life
Yeah, sure.
things. I don't try to make things up. This happened, and it was about my first date after my divorce. And that's what I called it in the beginning. And then it evolved to my first date since the 1900s, and they'd get a chuckle. And I would go through how it happened. I went on, the match.com, and I always say thematch.com because it's funnier than saying match.com. And it makes me sound like a bigger hayseed than what I
Like
am.
the Walmart.
Yeah.
Walmart. Yeah.
And my grandmother, everything had an S on it,
Yeah,
It was
dude.
like, we're going to Walmart's, or we're going to the Crystals, or we're
My
going
wife's
to
family's like that, bro.
Yeah.
Myers.
So
We're going to
you
Myers.
get it. You understand that. So I put this story together, and I told what happened to me, and then it's got some, of course, thank God, some fabrication to it. But the beginning, and I probably won't tell it fully, but the beginning of it started me just saying, man, I first date since the 1900s, and I met this woman online, and I didn't know anything. And from me saying I don't know anything, within a month, I came up with, do you folks know what catfished means?
Yeah, right.
And they'll, I said, man, I didn't. All I knew was grilled or fried. And when it gets a laugh. So I think when you're writing a joke or a story, all the tags and all the punchlines and how they go back and bring other things back from earlier in the night, that's what I love about comedy the most.
Yeah.
Is the tags. I'm a tagaholic. I mean, if I can bring something back like 5 times, I mean, my God, I'm ready to, run the comedy club. Hallelujah. I mean, that, and people get it, So I do this bit, and it's evolved so much. And I do a show. We talked in the first episode about open mics, and I don't do a lot. I've only done, and it floors people, but I had other ways of doing them, Michael. But what I do now is I have a show in Ringgold, Georgia, and it's a monthly in a coffee shop, and it's within 20 minutes of my hometown. And that show is peculiar. It's great. It's an amazing show, but probably half the audience, we'll run 50 people to 55 a month. And I would say 20 of those people I've ran that show for 4 years. So we've done that show 45 months. And I have people that have been to 30 plus shows, maybe.
Wow.
They come back. And I ask them, why do y'all come back? And they says, well, it's like seeing how the sausage is made.
Right.
You do things that we've heard 30 times sometimes, but you change it and it evolves. And so I call that my lab. Nate's got the people have Zany's lab, Ringgold coffee shops where I figure out my stuff, So this thing it's now called, if you look it up on YouTube, and that's not even the newest version. It's called Hey Doll is the bit. And it basically is the premise of the first date I went on. I knew nothing. I didn't know to call the woman. I didn't know to hear her voice. I just saw her online. I saw her picture. She was attractive. She was, we messaged back and forth, and I talk about us texting back and forth. And then I added the bit where, and I had I'm over here doing this. I said, and I had a BlackBerry. So that tells you how long ago this has been.
Right.
You find all these little
Yes.
things to
Right.
add. So if you're out there looking to write something and you're new to this, if you've got a premise, you've got the beginning of something, and it
Right.
takes time. And I'll talk about things in it, and it's not funny, but I always record every show I do on my phone. And now I've recorded them on video, but I record it on my phone so that night when I'm wired and tired, as I say, or the next morning, you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah, yeah,
preaching
yeah.
or
Yeah,
comedy.
exactly.
Man, you're
Right.
wired. You're like, but you can't sleep, but you're exhausted. And I'm like, and I listen to the
Yeah.
show, and I'm like, that was good. Or,
Yeah.
how do you get material? I get material the same way I got messages and sermons. I'd be sitting, I used to hear all the time as a young pastor, hey, if God wakes you up, if you wake up at 2:00 in the morning, that's the Lord. You better get up. And now it's because I got to pee because I'm older. But is that you, God, or do I need to pee? 3
God's
times. I
been
better
waking
start
me up a
listening.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But
Uh,
I'd keep a pad and a pen by my bed or my phone, and it's crazy because I can't read none of the writing,
yeah.
and then I'll be talking in my phone. I got this idea. I sound like Barry White, I'm like, I can't make this stuff out, or Darth Vader. But sometimes I just get up and I start working it and go back to bed. That's the
Nice.
joys of doing this full time. I can work on something, sleep a bit, get back up, work on it, do whatever. So
Nice.
this started off, the original title was Sister Picture, this bit, because the punchline was I met this woman. She didn't look like the woman in the picture.
Yeah.
She was
Right.
an older lady, maybe 20 years older. She was supposed to be 45 and she was 65.
Yes.
And, she's, not who she said she was. I got catfished, and I asked her who that picture was. And she said, it's my younger sister. So I
Yes.
called it, and it gets a laugh, and I called it Sister Picture.
Nice.
And then over the years, it's evolved into where it currently is, the fact that I do this whole bit about growing up in a Christian home and growing up in the 1900s. Uh, my daddy was the mailman in our town, small town. He knew everybody. I'd want to go spend the night somewhere, and my dad would say, no, you're not going. They get the Playboy. And I'm like, because the mailman knew everything,
Right.
in a small town. And I'm like, that's why we wanted to go. Nobody likes that kid. We just want to look at the Playboy. His daddy's got a drinking problem and he'll pass out. We can look at the Playboy. So I can get to go. And Victoria kept her secret in our house.
Right.
I didn't get to see the catalog. And so what I had was the JCPenney catalog. And
Yep.
that
Yep.
thing would come out at Christmas. And I do this whole bit, Michael, about that's how I made my Santa Claus list and all that. But when I turned 10, my life changed. I found pages 92 through 100, women's underwear and lingerie section.
Uh,
And I do this whole
uh,
thing about it. And it's right in the middle of the show. It always gets a big laugh. People, especially if you're over 40, that's your
Yep.
wheelhouse. So I'm in that coffee shop showing, and I'm doing Hey Doll. And the reason I'd call her Hey Doll is her voice. It was an old woman. She was, and I'm not really telling the bit. I'm just kind of talking about what it's about. I'm not drunk. I promise. This is coffee, not wine. Yeah, but I tell it where when I started, it was a lady I met online. I show up at Starbucks and I'm waiting, and she pulls up, comes in, and she's older, and she's not the woman in the picture. Well, that evolved into her driving a van a white van because I use that reference in another bit
Okay.
that's funny. So it tags it, and then I say she was smoking a cigarette like it was going out of style.
Right.
And when she opened the door, she looked like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Coming out. Remember that scene coming out? And people our age will get
It's like
that.
it's like different person, different species,
Yeah.
right?
And I thought, this looks like a Van Halen concert or something. She's coming out, and I'm like, and being from the South, another joke within this story is I looked at her and I said what all Southerners say, bless her heart.
Yeah, right.
And, that's code for what an idiot. And, the Yankees don't know it. The Hawaiians don't know it yet. And you just say a good bless your heart. So it turned into Hey Doll because she smoked and she was smoking. And when she came in, and I tell this, she walked in and I'm like, I wonder, bless her heart, this poor little woman's just, out today. That's nice. Well, she walked up to my table and it's just me and her in there. And I'm like, what does she want? And then I always say in the bit, I say, I'm going to do her voice one time because it hurts to do it. And I'm afraid I'll wake up in the fetal position and not swallow. And she looked at me and she said, Hey, dog, have you been waiting long? I go into I say, I sounded like that 10-year-old kid looking at the JCPenney catalog. I'm like, who, me? I sound like Scooby-Doo, and she's like, yeah, you know, from all that smoking. And and at this point, I'm like petrified. And in the bit, I'll say, I thought for you old people like me, I was looking for Alan Funk, Candy Camera Guy.
Yeah.
For you younger people, Ashton on the Punk Show. But
Right.
somebody's playing one on Big Ridge. This is not really happening. Oh, it did happen. And people say, well, what did you do? And I said, man, I'm a nice man. I said, I only know 2 women that don't like me. What are the odds I married both of them? I mean, my God, So I bought her coffee, and Michael, I buy Doll coffee, and we're sitting there, and then she slid her chair over to mine, like up against me. My denim and her polyester were cohabitating right there. At the table. Only I could prevent the forest fire that was trying to start there. And I'm still just shocked. Who is this woman? And where's my date? This is not the, what? And she put her hand on my leg, my upper thigh. And then she said this. She said, and then I'll stop and say, I can't do her voice. I just can't. And then I do it. And I'm like, she looked at me and said, if you'll take me to dinner tonight, I'll make you breakfast in the morning, big boy. And I said the first thing I could think of. I said, hey, I don't eat breakfast. And then, of course, I'm big rich. I love breakfast. We'll go to Waffle House today if you're buying, Michael. I'm in. So, you go through all that. And then the way it ends, and I'll do a bit about I'm praying for the rapture. I'm asking the Lord to come now, take me home. I'm ready. I've done my time on earth. I just got to get out of this date. I don't know what to do. And she's still trying to get me to go home with her. And, and it's just, and everybody's into it. And then I used to say, ma'am, do you mind if I ask who's the pitcher? And she would say, like I said earlier, it's her sister. But the new tag and what works so well, and I discovered this for you guys writing comedy. I discovered this doing a show. You want to write good material, do a show because it evolves while you're up there.
Right.
And plus I do this particular show, I'll have a comic or two and they do 15 minutes and 20. And then everybody knows I'm coming up and you might get an hour. If they're into it, I'll go an hour. If they're not, 45-ish or whatever. But that's my playground. That's where I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And I'm telling this bit and I'm up there and I'm like, yeah, she said, I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I'm like, I don't eat breakfast. And then I'm like, I've got to get out of here. What am I going to do? And then I told her, I said, I'm just not ready for this. this is my first date since my divorce. I'm sorry. It's not you, it's me. And I do all the lines that people say,
Right.
in dating. And then she says, well, I understand. And then, but in my mind, I'm thinking, man, that woman in that picture, she was hot. And man, and she looked familiar and I'd love to meet her. So I'm a preacher, man. I'm a man of faith. I'm bold as a lion. I just asked the old lady, the sweet woman. I said, do you mind if I ask, who is that picture? And she says, hell, I don't know. I cut her out of the JCPenney catalog. And it takes it all the way
Nice.
back to,
Yeah.
halfway in the show.
Nice.
And
Love the callback.
normally that's good night. God bless you. I'm Big Rich. We'll see you next time. Or I've got something I heard on Nate Land one day. I think it was Nate Land or maybe Dusty talking about with a joke, have exit ramps, have
Yeah, that was
different
Nate.
ways.
I've seen that clip. Yeah.
Yeah. And that one, I've got maybe 3 different ways I can take it. And I'd love to come up with more, but the premise is
I got one for you when
let's
you're
hear it.
ready.
I'm ready.
Just one more exit ramp, first date in decades. I got catfished and I still asked for a second date. So there you go. That's how desperate I was.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Another one I do with it is I talk about, it being on thematch.com, and I'll end the night saying, I left that coffee shop and I'm driving home and I pulled into the first church parking lot I saw that had a cross on the building. And I just prayed and I asked God to forgive me for getting on thematch.com. And I got off of it that day. And 2 days later, I joined Christian Mingle. Come on, somebody, or I'll say I joined eHarmony, or I'll switch it up, It's fun because I did a show one time, Michael, and I got hired to do a private event. I do a lot of those. I love to do more, but I do probably 30 a year, I guess, that are private events. And it was a pizza place, had 50 employees. They had like a fun center, all this stuff. And the guy hired me to do the entertainment for their Christmas party. And I just started. I wasn't smart enough to ask a lot of questions. I show up, 50 people there, 45 of them were under the age of 18.
Wow.
Because it was a bunch of high school kids. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, what am I going? I went back into that youth pastor mind, trying to figure out what to do. But the material that worked best with those kids was my dating stories because a lot of their parents were dating again. And they had a perspective of it that they're like, okay, now I understand my dad better, why my dad's smelling like a cologne bottle, or why my dad, or why my mother changed clothes 3 times to go out to Chili's, or to Applebee's with some character. And we talked after the set and they were giving me and my wheels. I said, okay, I've got my target audience, those 40 to 64s, but I can entertain whoever's there, man. If they're old enough to understand, if they can work an iPhone, I can figure out a way to, make them laugh. But
Love it.
this whole thing, I think in writing, for me, I'm not a one line guy.
Yeah.
I love Rodney Dangerfield. I like just sit down and listen to him on the old Johnny Carson shows. If you don't know who those people are, get off your skateboard and go get on the YouTube. He's great, and it's all one-liners and just funny stuff. But you've got to incorporate some of those in what you're doing. I can't sit there and do 100 of them, but I love having a few of those in that bit. I mean, we talked about it for 10 minutes. When I do that in a show, I'll do that for 15 minutes of a show. But it brings back, I'll tag 4 to 5 jokes I'd already done in that time. And it works every time, man.
Nice.
Works every time.
Nice.
And when you find something that works, keep doing it and let it evolve. Because, like I said, it started off me saying it was her younger sister and it was old sister picture. And now it's Hey Doll. And I've got T-shirts, Hey Doll, and it's, and I've got, merch out of it. And it's, things just grow if you let it. So anyway,
I love that. Yeah, I was thinking of during different stages of that joke, like just as you were going different. I like the idea of like, all her photos were from the fun angles. you know,
yeah,
turns out, turns out the angle was 1995.
yeah, I do. And when I'm talking about this stuff, and on that premise, I've got something I'll talk about with it, and I give dating advice. And I always started off. Who doesn't want dating advice from a former pastor that's been divorced twice? You know, it gets a chuckle, but I'm like, and everybody knows this premise where, guys, we're putting pictures up of us catching fish or we're doing,
Yeah, right.
stuff or a motorcycle or whatever. And I was like, and I'll do this bit where I'll talk about, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a relationship? Are you looking for a forever love? I said, man, I'm a lover. I'm looking for that soulmate, that friend. That's what I'm looking for in my life. So when I go on the match.com and your first picture is you out at the beach in a bikini, yeah, I notice.
Right.
But, my advice to you is maybe put that third. Leave it in there for God's sakes, but make us look for it a little bit. Maybe 7, where it's like winning a prize when you find that
Right.
picture. Instead of bam, there it is right there. And
Like her profile. Her profile said she was 5'6".
Yeah.
5'6" round.
yeah, which direction?
Yeah,
Yes,
which direction?
is that
Horizontal.
circumference? Uh,
I
but
love that.
and I do this thing and something with that. I didn't understand. When I've been single a little while, but I didn't understand filtered pictures. I thought she filtered cigarettes, AC units. I
Right.
didn't know you could take a picture and make yourself look different. And another true one. I went on a date one time and I met this woman and she showed up and I'm like, man, this looks like that woman I'm supposed to meet that's had like a hard life. Something something went wrong from when she took that picture. It's just a hard life.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
but I'm like, I'm nice and let's eat. And I walk in and I'd only been divorced a short period of time. And I walk into the restaurant and it was a big restaurant within an hour of where I grew up or where I lived. And they set us in a booth and I look over and 5 feet from me at the table is my ex-wife, my ex-in-laws, and my 3 boys all sitting at that table. And my first thought was, why couldn't this woman be hotter?
She looked like she'd been in a bar fight that morning.
Yeah, I was like, why couldn't she been 25 and the bartender or something? I'm like, my boys, I know they're looking like, and I remember my youngest was young. He goes, Daddy, who is that? I said, son, I met her at church. She just needed some help.
Dude, her hands looked like she'd been working on construction.
Yeah, man hands, good old man hands.
Met her at church, she needed help. That's
Yeah.
good.
So there's, I think, real life things.
Yeah, dude.
And I don't have, and I'm for it. Writing groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not a part of anything like that. This is as close as I've got to one, to be honest, me and you chatting. But you got to be you. But at the same time, man, working things with people gives a lot of insight and adds to it. Again, I think the area with Zoom and all the things we got going on, it's a lot more doable and easier to work material. Get on some of these chat rooms. And
Yeah.
I just tend to work. What I did when I started, Michael, is I sent an email to 5 people in my life. My buddy, who's my insurance agent, my cousin's husband, a high school friend I grew up with, a guy in marketing, and a guy that I just thought had a good sense of humor. And I said, listen, I'm going to try stand-up comedy. And I'd like for you guys, I'm going to send you a video. It's like 5 minutes of me just here at the house. And I'd like your thoughts. And, just tell me what you think. And all 5 of them said, you got something here, you know.
Mm,
Um, you ought to try it. You ought to run with it. I I went to my, and I understand like when you're doing building open mics, you want people to come. You want to sell drinks or food or whatever. The area I'm in, a lot of the open mics are just open
yeah.
micers there.
Right.
You might get lucky and one of them bring a woman,
Right.
or there's like one person that's not going up that's there, and everybody's staring at them like, oh, here's a crowd member. But the first one I went to, I posted a photo the next day and said, I didn't tell anybody. I just went. And the next day I put on my Face World. That's what my mother called it instead of Facebook, which I use in my show. I put on Face World. I did something last night that I've always wanted to do, and I'll keep you posted. And I had like 300 or 400 likes in the comments. And one was like, why didn't you tell us we'd have been there? And I'm like, watching me do an open mic, I
Mm,
can only compare it to watching my boys when they were little practice T-ball. Nobody wants to watch that except the parent. I
right.
mean,
Right.
we're going to football practice. I love going to my midget football practice for my boys,
Yeah.
but the only people there were dads,
Right.
and
Right.
mothers drinking wine, chatting. We loved it, but nobody else wants to see it. I said, y'all don't want to see this, but when I'm ready, trust me, you'll hear about
Mm,
it. And,
nice.
but I found those 5 people and I got their advice and just threw them out a little material. So if you got something you're working on, it might be calling somebody. I call my buddy that's my insurance agent. I say, hey, you busy? And he grins. I can hear it through the phone because he knows. He goes,
Yeah.
I got a minute. I said, okay. And I'll do a bit.
Nice. Nice.
And if I get, and I know him, people say, well, you know him, he's gonna laugh. No, that I know him. I know he ain't gonna laugh if it's
Yeah.
not funny.
Right.
He's that kind
Right.
of friend. And if I can get him rolling, I'm like, okay, I got something.
Nice.
So I
Nice.
think it's just
Well,
a matter of when it comes to material, you've got to spend the time. And when you think of something, jot it down or put it on your phone or do something
right.
so you can go back to it. And if 10 people tell you it sucks, I don't know.
Uh,
Every comic that I've talked to has been doing this while we all got one bit that really isn't that good, but in our minds,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
gold, baby. It's gold,
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yes. Well,
So
let's spend maybe 5 minutes here or something doing some on the spot comedy. You good with that?
okay. Yeah,
Um,
sure. Let's give it a shot.
so for those of you watching or listening, here's how if you want to try this yourself, you can head over to michaelhalcom.live and then scroll down. You're gonna see like a social section, and you scroll to the very bottom of that. You're gonna see 3 links that say, "Whoa, whoops!" You're gonna see 3 links that say the Joke Writers Lab. So let me see if I can do that here. My computer's being finicky for some reason. All right, here we go. There we go. The first one's the online course that I got. You can learn to joke right. The second's a Facebook group, private group. You can join that if you want. And then the third is these exercises we're going to do, and anybody can use these. So I've coded these exercises for just to practice joke writing, and I'll use these to like get juices flowing if I need to. But you can do
Cool.
jokes from headlines, roasting, cliches, all kinds of stuff here. So let's just play around here for a few minutes. These jokes from headlines, these pull from actual live news stories that are running right now today. So if I hit this generate prompt, it's going to give me headlines that are live in the world today. And our job is to see if we can riff on some of these. Colombia's president, an outspoken Trump critic, heads to White House. Colombia's president, an outspoken Trump critic, heads to the White House. So we can bounce back and forth and try to make a joke off this. That's the idea.
All
Um, in related news, Trump had ICE waiting. I don't know.
It's like I uh, you could almost just say insert name here, an outspoken truck critic.
Right.
Because all truck critics are outspoken.
Right. That's right. Very true. Yeah. In related news, there's no such thing as an quiet Trump critic, but
Yeah.
um
Colombia's president.
yes.
Somebody get the mirror out, or no, somebody get the dogs, the drug dogs ready.
Right.
Colombia's president heads to the White House, and yeah, God,
Colombia's president heads to the White House, prison with Maduro. Oh man, my camera off. Let me see if I can get.
I look at it and I think you've got to tie in the drug cartel. But I'm
Right.
afraid to, in case they're listening. So I'm not doing any jokes about the drug cartel or the mafia in case they're listening.
Yes, let's try it. We'll go to a different one here. Let's see. Drivers can, I don't compare fuel prices at different petrol stations. How does it work?
Well, who the hell calls it petrol stations? I mean, where are you getting these prompts from? Jolly old England?
This is I guess pulling from some European news source, I guess.
I would just be having my tea and crumpets right now and not know what to say. Fuel prices. I will say one thing: drivers compare fuel prices at different gas stations. I literally get off an exit when I'm traveling, and I've got the place that I know I go to. But if it's 1 cent cheaper across the street at Jim Bob's Catfish Emporium and fuel station, I'm pulling in because I'm saving
right.
I'm saving 13 cents on this filler.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, my camera went off here. Let me refresh. I'm gonna come right back. Give me just a second.
Do 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 do. Boom.
Can you see me? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're
All
looking
right, right on.
refreshed.
Yes. Let's
That was
see.
my prompt. Yeah, thank you for that prompt. Yeah.
Yes. All right, so let's get
Give us one more. Hit another one.
Oh
Oh
gosh.
my Lord, I don't even know. I'm from the South, for God's sake. I don't even know who Rafa is.
Yeah, protesters press Target to take a stand against ICE crackdown in Minneapolis.
It's crazy, man. He hadn't had an album in 40 years. I don't understand it.
Vanilla Ice. Yes,
Pick
or
any
Ice
of the
Cube.
ices. None of them have had.
Ice Cube.
Yeah. None of them, insert ice here. None of them have had a record in 40 years.
Let's do another one here. So this is my favorite one.
Okay.
So this is Finish the Setup. And what I did was I took a few thousand jokes and chopped the punchline off. And I kept the setup. And our job is to try to come up with a new punchline off the old setup. Yeah. So for example, let's see. Today, Scotland and England laughed off reports they were breaking up and insist they've never been here. This was an actual joke from somebody. Yeah.
Well, again, Scotland and England. It's not really my my people, but let's see what we can do. Yeah.
A massive World of Warcraft theme amusement park is being built in China. Soon to be followed by a new COVID themed amusement park.
You can purchase one in America for only $1.99, but the tariff's going to kill you.
Apple is working with medical professionals to see if Apple Watches can detect heart problems.
This is true. That's crazy. And I think about that because, maybe it's being an obese 50-something-year-old man from the South, but I get things on my phone all the time that says, check your blood pressure by putting your finger on your phone. And I'm thinking, they're just trying to get my fingerprint to take
Right.
something from me. I don't believe that. How they gonna tell my freaking blood sugar by sticking my finger on the phone? That
I
was
I don't think obese people will get this watch. They should have rethought the branding here and named it like steak or something like
yeah.
that.
How
So
about Biscuit and
yeah,
Gravy's working on
biscuits
it,
and
for
gravy.
God's sakes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Fried apple pie is working on
Yeah,
this.
there you go. Apple pie, there
Yeah.
you go.
And then you throw in Apple Watches and you think Weight Watchers, so that's already got people confused.
Charlie Sheen visited with the UCL baseball team on Friday and told them not to do crack.
Whatever you do not get on the white lines when you're rounding the bases.
Uh,
Charlie Sheen visit. Are you sure that's not the girls' basketball team?
yeah, right. Oh man, Charlie Sheen visited with the UCL baseball team on Friday and told them not to do crack. To which they replied, "Too late."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen visited the UCLA baseball team on Friday and told them not to do crack. Then they were severely disappointed when they found out it was his brother, Emilio Estevez, in disguise.
Emilio yes.
Unless you like Young Guns.
Today, Broncos star quarterback Peyton Manning retired. T- Today, Broncos star quarterback Peyton Manning retired. I
Due
don't
to the fact they couldn't find a helmet to fit his forehead.
good, dude. That's really good. We'll do one more thing here.
Sure.
This is jokes from cliches, and this is just a few thousand cliches, random,
Okay.
and we
This
just
is
try to
very
riff on 'em.
cool what you put together.
Thank you, man. It's free. Anybody can use this. Hot under the collar.
I think I'm having more fun just laughing about what I'm trying to come up with. Give me a good example of this one.
Hot under the collar. Oh my
Mm.
goodness. What the how my Catholic priest feels when he's leading youth group. I don't know.
As soon as I read it, I thought of Rodney Dangerfield. Hey, hot under
Yeah.
the collar. Oh,
Oh man.
but that's a pretty good one. Hot under the collar.
I noticed my camera went out again. Whatever. I'm just gonna leave it.
Yeah, I don't know if the mass media is saying they'd rather look at me than you, but I don't know. Let's see.
It's um throw or toss your hat into the ring. We'll end on this one. Toss your
Okay.
hat into the ring.
I'm throwing my hat in the ring because I am not putting the rest of me through that thing. That's
Yeah.
for sure. I'm
Nice.
tossing my hat in the ring. I'm going to tell you, these things make you work,
Yeah.
but there's a reason it's called a writing challenge.
Yeah. Right.
Because you get a couple of them that just flow, and then you're sitting there, and I think you're also thinking, is that funny? And I think where I mess up in doing this challenge is you just got to say whatever's in your mind
Exactly.
and then
Yeah.
work it. That's the point. And when you do open mics and you're working material like this, it's of course, it's our nature. We want to be funny. We're comics. I mean, we want to make people laugh. But when you realize, no, I'm there to work things out and figure it out, it'll make your life a whole lot easier.
Right.
To know that. And these guys that I can't imagine, Michael, the folks that have achieved, the upper echelon of this profession, where they go into a comedy cellar or go into some club and surprise pop in and do their set before they do Tonight Show or
Right.
before they go on the road. Everybody, is expecting to laugh, and they're going to laugh at anything a certain A-lister is going to say because it's the A-lister.
Right. Yeah.
And they'll talk about
Right.
that and say, to truly gauge is something good material. I think it's repetition. I think you have, to share it with different places, then you got to trust your gut. And lastly, I think, Michael, my last thing to add about this whole conversation is, in comedy, you've got to find your people. Just like music or art,
Yeah.
everybody has different taste. Man, people there's a lot more people that don't like Big Rich comedy than they are that
Right,
do.
right,
But it's me finding
right,
those people that do
right.
and entertaining them. And I try to bring, I have people come to shows and say, well, that's not really my cup of tea. I like this kind of comedy. And
Yeah,
but I had fun. And I said, thanks, man. I appreciate it. But
right.
it's finding your audience. And if you can't find one after a while, you might want to take up pottery.
Yes. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing some
You're great,
insights.
man.
Throw your hat in the ring. I grew up watching my mom throw her ring. So there you go. But that's true. Story. But anyways, dude, thanks for coming on to the show. I'm really grateful. Appreciate that. My camera's out again, but oh well. For those of you watching, head over to Rich's website, bigrichbrock.com, and then head over to michaelhalcomb.live. Daily blog there. You can subscribe to this podcast, and it's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the things. But man, Rich, great joking with you, dude. Thanks for coming on the show.
You too,
Appreciate you
brother.
so much. And for those of you watching or listening, thank you so much. We're going to stop there and say we hope that helps.
It's all messed up, yeah. Everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just